Welcome to our book club podcast this month. We are actually doing something special. We're going to do a year in review. Just a little history of our book club. The first book that we read was The Alchemist in November of 2022. And though our group has shifted a little bit throughout the last 14 months, I think we've really solidified as a group recently, and it has just been such a pleasure every month to connect with these women and to hear their thoughts and their wisdom that they have on the books that we read. It really has been an opportunity for growth for all of us and an opportunity to connect with some new people because we didn't all really know each other when we first started this book club. Jenna and Ashlyn knew each other, and I knew Teresa and Noelle, but Teresa, Noelle, and even myself didn't know Jenna that well or even Ashlyn that well. So it's really been fun to connect with these women and come together as a group. So I hope you enjoy the podcast tonight as we review the books that we've read since the beginning of 2023. Ashlyn, would you like to read what those books are?
Yeah, just so we have a quick recap before we dive into discussion about all of these books. In January, we read The Celestine Prophecy. In February, we read Many Masters, Many Lives. In March, we read 8 Rules of Love. In April, The Power of the Subconscious Mind. In May, Angels in My Hair. In June, Love Ignites Peace, Our Next Evolution by our very own Paigey Poo. In July, Do It Scared. In August, A Love Letter Life. In September, We. In October, The Universe Has Your Back. And in November, Heaven is Beautiful.
And everybody has been in this group for the full year, except for Noelle, who joined us in June. But she's an avid reader. She might have even read some of these books already. I don't know, that we didn't discuss with her on book club. So I know the year in review will be maybe a little bit cut in half for Noelle, but that's okay.
So we have several questions we're going to be discussing today on this podcast. And I want to just give a quick high level so you know what's to come since we didn't read one specific book to discuss. We're going to talk about a story that connected with our personal lives from one of the books this past year. We are going to give advice to our younger selves from what we learned from one of the books. We are going to give our current friends and listeners advice from one of the books we read in 2023. And then we're going to talk about our favorite quote from a book this year, as well as our top 5 books that we read. So you could possibly take that forward as a recommendation for this next year. So to get us started, share a story about how one or more of the books have connected with your life this past year.
Anyone want to start?
Well, I will. It kind of connected, and my favorite are a twofold. And mine was The 8 Rules of Love by Jay Shetty. That book connected with me. I really liked how precise and clear he wrote the book. It tapped into, for me, my personal journey on loving myself really first, and before we can really move into that one-on-one connecting with other people. It just really validated my personal journey.
I have to say that I had a couple of books this year that really connected with my life. And one of those was Angels in My Hair. And that was the second time that I had read it. But for some reason, the second reading for me of Angels in My Hair was really profound. And what I found was that as I was writing Love Ignites Peace, Our Next Evolution, I started asking out loud all the time for the angels to help me because I was under a time frame, like a time crunch to write that book. And so it really, not that I hadn't called on angels before, but that experience with that book really solidified, I think for me, my relationship with being able to ask the angels for help and doing it on a regular basis, like all the time now. And then the other book that really connected with my life this past year, believe it or not, was We. And it really helped me gain a better understanding of a masculine, feminine dynamic in romantic relationships. And I'm not currently in a romantic relationship, but the awareness from this book really gave me an interesting perspective of my marriage. And I think it will be an interesting filter for me to run my next relationship through when it does happen, to have that perspective to bring to it.
So for me, I mean, obviously I was just here for half of it. And I've read some of the other books. I haven't got I own them all. I just haven't gotten to them all. But it was kind of a tie for me for two different reasons, a story that connected. One was Love Six Actions from Love Ignites Peace. I just see that showing up in my life. And as I continue to unfold in this journey, it just makes more and more and more sense. It made sense in the beginning, but it just makes more and more sense that the actions of understanding, discerning, allowing, forgiving, and respecting, the need for those and the value of having those six actions continue to show up in my life. As you know, or maybe you don't know, I'm a teacher, I'm an educator, so I work with elementary school children. And what a perfect, beautiful place to practice those steps, those actions, and putting them into play in my life. So I get to practice that daily. The other one that really has impacted my life is Heaven is Beautiful. It's something about being able to step in the vastness that he explains in that book after his near-death experience or during his near-death experience, that vastness, that void, that love, all of those things. It helps me when I'm able to access that feeling anytime something seems bigger than maybe I thought I could handle in the moment, is just to step into that unconditional vast love. So those are my two.
So my answer is a little bit less specific because from this question, what stood out most to me was the way that I definitely have my favorites from the last year, which we'll address later. But even if I didn't absolutely love a book, I got something out of every single book that so divinely connected with exactly what was happening. So for me, every book really felt like a building block to one another. And at the jump, one that isn't even necessarily on my list of favorites, but the Celestine Prophecy, where I remember we had an amazing discussion about the meaning of coincidences. And that one has kind of trickled through all of them. And I wish I had more specifics, but to me, how everything kind of weaved together from speaking in a podcast to then, oh, this from this book tied back to this. And then 3 books down, and we mention this frequently in the podcast of kind of like when we talked about XYZ in this book. So that to me was kind of the magic of it all, where everything felt so intentional, even from the order that the books were being chosen and like what I was getting out of them at a certain stage in life. That really impacted me the most. It was almost divine, the order that we read them in, because I mean, I know that was intentional, obviously, from your part, but I also think there's some of that synchronicity in there where it's just what kind of built off of each other, made all of the micro lessons more impactful for me. And then especially after reading Love Ignites Peace, then you kind of rack your brain and tie all of them back to this. And it just kind of feels like this big, greater, powerful piece all along of how this came to be and how these stories and lessons built upon each other.
I think that is such a beautiful answer and such a cool way to look at how we engage with these books. Just because you might not love it doesn't mean you can't get something out of it.
What's so cool is I really completely agree with you, Jenna. I didn't absolutely love every single book we read, but there was something I definitely got out of every single book we read that impacted my life in some way this year.
I was going to ask Jenna, because correct me if I misunderstood, but you're kind of new on this metaphysical awareness journey of the energy of the universe. Your path is new, or
no? I wouldn't say it's new, but I would say like some of the specifics are new. Like not necessarily like the energy or frequency, but like some of like maybe like past life kind of pieces, totally new. was not familiar with familiar with the concept. And I've obviously heard of like reincarnation and all of that, but not like on this kind of level.
Because I was curious at the order of the books we read. You said it was like a building block of really what's happening almost currently in your life every month versus someone on the older end of our age spectrum. The building blocks are already there. So for me, it wasn't a building upon one, but so much information or revisiting it brought ideas and reformulated it to the forefront of how I use it today. So there's maybe a little difference in our journeys where I think it's really cool you saw it as a building block, where Noelle and even Paige, we've been doing it a while. So I think is that different? Am I even explaining or asking a question or a thought?
No, I understand what you're saying. I mean, I would say yes and no. Like, I wouldn't say like I was reading these books and it's like, oh, I've never heard of any of this. Like, I've been a super spiritual person my entire life. So like none of that is new, and kind of like tapping into this energy of love. Like, that's not new at all for me. I've been doing that for 20 plus years. But more of what I was meaning on the building blocks is not necessarily like building from ground zero, but how the books to me totally built a path of, they just coincidentally concurred with a lot of what I was experiencing during like that exact moment. So like I remember reading the piece about coincidences, and like I totally already believed that, but it was kind of a reaffirmation, and very similar to what Paige said, angels in your hair, I totally already believe that I can tap into these spiritual presences and have done so frequently across my life. But it was like at that exact moment, I remember I had a lot going on with work and like a lot going on with my personal life. And it's like, that was the lesson that I exactly needed to be reiterated at that time. Not so much like, oh, I've never heard this, although there was a lot of new stuff and like different interpretations of stuff, even from books I had already read. But it was like kind of settling in a lesson that you kind of always needed. And even like with the most previous one, The Universe Has Your Back, I remember there's like the 4 tapping finger meditation, which is like exactly what I needed last month when we read that book. I was like, okay, I've known about meditation for years. I have meditated off and on for years, like, but it was just like, hey, gentle nudge to bring that habit back, which is exactly what I needed at that moment.
That's cool.
Ashlyn, what about you?
It's kind of funny. That actually ties perfectly into one of the things I wanted to say in a general commentary about, sharing a story about how these books have impacted my life, which is I have not been great about completing self-help books. I find it's not as compelling to read as a little romance novel, perhaps. And so I can't say that it's ever been one of my main conduits to self-exploration. I've dabbled. I have read a few of these books before that we discussed. But what I loved and like cherished this year in this book club is that A, it was like accountability that I needed to read these books. But then B, obviously the incredible discussions. And then C, what we already discussed, which is that there was a nugget in each and every one of them. And so it's been making me think, as we were reflecting about this year, I'm like, gosh, is there a way that we can make this book club also an accountability experience, or like a, sometimes that's helpful. I mean, especially if you struggle with discipline yourself, to have that accountability buddy to read these books, because I will unequivocally tell you that like every single one of these books left me feeling inspired and light and a higher vibration and a better person. Like I've grown more this year probably from these books that we've read than anything else, because as you know, in Love Ignites Peace, like my mom and I have this foundation, as all of you women on this call do. So it's like, even when you have a strong foundation, it's an incredible thing to be able to just continue to add, like, get your freak on, right? Continue to add these high vibrational reminders. And I find that so often is that we learn something and then we kind of forget it because there's so much to process, to hold on to keep at the forefront of our minds. And so these are beautiful reminders and moments of expansion, learning, growth, transformation throughout the year. With that said, my share story is also fairly brief, but it's actually about a love letter life. And the irony is that at the time I was at in my life when we were reading it, it also, as Jenna said, all of the books happened to align so often with what I was going through. But both my mom and Jenna texted me, holy heck, Ashlyn, you have to read this book. Have you picked up A Love Letter Life yet? Like, you need to start reading it. Because at the time I was talking to this guy, and they were really trying to get me to understand the concept of a patient pursuit and how, like, the pursuit can be patient and it can be slow, but it's not necessarily negative. Now, there needs to be more of a pursuit. Knock, knock,
Okay.
till all that's over.
You lost your patience with that pursuit, right?
And I thought, could use a little more pursuit in that. I was getting lots of patience, could use a little more pursuit. But the reality is, it's just another example of love as an action. And we had several books this year that really put that in perspective. And that was A Love Letter Life, 8 Rules of Love, and Love Ignites Peace, The Next Evolution. All three of those gave us very tangible ways to be the love that we seek.
All right, on to our next question. Ask your younger self, what do I wish I knew then that I've learned from reading one or more of these books this year?
Oh, I have one. Actually, some of the questions are your favorite quote, and that particular question, and all of them are coming from the Celestine Prophecy. You would think that would have been my favorite book because everything came from that, but probably because I'd already read it, and my favorite was Jay Shetty, and I hadn't really read the 8 Rules, but I would go back as a young mom starting with my firstborn. And there was a quote in the Celestine Prophecy is, the worst thing that can be done to children is to drain their energy while correcting them. That, as a mom, I don't have a ton of regrets or anything like that. I think I did a pretty decent job, but I would go back and really rethink those minute, tiny moments in child rearing. And I would not want to drain their energy, which I'm sure there were times I did. So I would want to fill them up while correcting them. So that, for me, that was the biggest moment.
I think that's so beautiful. And I'm also slightly laughing, not about that, but about the fact that when the question is your younger self, I'm like, yeah, what would I tell like an 8-year-old?
I didn't go back that far.
No, but I love
I can't remember 8 years old.
But you're getting great advice. That's why we have this age range here, right? There's so much different experiences, and then people we can speak to on different levels. I, as a 27-year-old, I'm like, that's good advice, Teresa. Thank you for giving your younger self, aka me, some advice. Thank you.
Write that down, both of you young girls here, because it's really important.
So I'll answer the question, but one side note that I just remembered that I can't believe I have not brought up on this podcast. I do not remember which episode it was, but there was one, it might have been 8 Rules of Love when we were talking about self-love and like personal growth. And I said, I've had a yearning to just record a video, me to watch in the future about, I don't know, just my progress as the human, catching myself in a moment where I felt really proud of myself and really fulfilled with self-love. And Teresa told me, you should do that. Like, that will be so cool.
You should do that.
I did it. But it was maybe 6 months ago, which it's funny because I already don't remember. So it might already be good to go back and watch it. But I totally got the idea from one of the books, and I can't believe I didn't even remember to ever say this or remember what podcast that came from. But I did that, and I'm so excited. I'll give it a little bit longer, but I'm so excited in years to come to kind of watch that as a little love letter to self, note to self.
That's cool. It's kind of like when you travel and they tell you to journal everything while you're traveling. You think you're going to remember. And even by the end of the first, like one day on a trip, there's things you can't remember. So to remember these moments of your life, it's almost impossible. So
it's so true. But to answer that question, this, again, didn't come from a specific book, but it came from the whole experience for me, would be be strong in your convictions, but not so strong that you're not open-minded. I was a kid who was very like sure of my beliefs. And I was really proud that I was very sure of my beliefs because a lot of people around me weren't at that age. So I don't know, maybe I felt I had a little bit of a chip on my shoulder in a sense, but I like made myself up to feel good about that. But maybe I was probably insecure about not being as open-minded. I don't know. I digress. But I think within this last year, I've been more open-minded to things that really and truly I didn't ever think I would be open-minded to. And I'm really proud of that. And I think going to full circling to the conviction part is like, you can still have your convictions. You can have a belief, take in other information and decide that you still have your same belief. But if in that middle part of the sandwich, you don't actually assess something with an open mind or the potential that this idea or thing could be true, then you're really doing yourself a disservice. And I am definitely just assessing everything that comes my way with more of an open mind these days.
I'm so proud of you because I knew you even when that maybe wasn't a thing 7 years ago, 8 years ago. Not that you haven't progressively been more open-minded, but I am really proud of you.
Thank you.
I think that shows a lot of just self-growth when you're able to, it's question your beliefs, but allow other information to come in to say, there might be something more. I think that's a really, really amazing step in maturity.
I always say this too. It's like if you question a belief, you should be able to question your beliefs because as you question them, you either just reaffirm them or you find something that fits better. It's a win-win-win all the way around. I'm sure this year, Jenna, there have been beliefs that you've encountered through these books, and some of them you said, yeehaw, let's ride on with this, and others you said, no thank you. Like Bob Felicia, you've very much taken what resonates and left behind what's not currently calling to you. And that's like a really cool part of the process too, I feel like.
That's what we encourage all our listeners to do as well, is just listen with an open mind and then take what resonates with you.
And a big part of it too is like taking your ego out of it. And this will pervade into other parts of your life where it's not just this spiritual realm, which is of course so expansive of so many things, but even just like, I don't know, how you treat your health, your political beliefs, all of these things. Like high school, early college, I was very like, these are my beliefs and I came to them because, I wasn't quite this aggressive, but in my head, I'm like, I don't think I ever came off that aggressive, but these are my beliefs. And like, if you don't think exactly like I do so much, but it was kind of teetering that line. Like, how could people ever believe or think X, Y, and Z? And even if, again, you circle back to being like, okay, yeah, I still concur with those things I believed earlier, there's this different softness about just being open-minded to like, I see why you believe what you believe. Even though I might disagree, I totally like see you, I hear you, I understand you, and we can genuinely agree to disagree. And not just say that, but come out like peaceful. Again, I didn't never get into like any wild arguments with people where there was like banter and not peace, but like peacefully internally where you're like, I'm okay that you believe that, even though I disagree. I'm okay that you do X, Y, and Z. It's really freeing, actually.
One thing that like the beginning of this was about questioning. And I would just put out there, what's your definition when you use that term to question? A lot of people automatically go into it's a doubt. I'm questioning it, so I doubt it. Where maybe using the word explore, there's more openness and vastness, and you can have an ebb and flow and a give and return with another person in exploring versus questioning. Sometimes when we question someone, if that's the case, they can tend to become a little defensive. And then that discussion turns the tables a little bit, where let's explore this concept or thought. So that's what I like to use, put out there.
I love that. And also, I love that this conversation is really about one of our core tenets at Loving Knight's Peace, which is lean into the maybes, baby.
It's so interesting because my perspective now is I wouldn't say anything to my younger self because that would change my trajectory. However, in honor of the question, and I found this woven through every book that we read, at least, well, all of them, even if I haven't read them just by listening to the podcast, is everything is working out for you and through you. So even, do it scared, that just taking those baby steps allows life to work through you. The universe has your back is obviously all about everything's working out for you. Love letter life, taking your time with those relationships and really nurturing them is working out for you and through you. And even the relationships that don't everything's working out for you. So I found that woven through. So that would be the advice to my younger self, is just remember, and that would be every age. My dad sent a picture the other day. I was born in Japan, and I have an older sister that's a year older and a brother that's younger. And he was walking on the military base with 2 strollers, and my sister and my brother were in the front and I was in the back. And I had this really sad look on my face. And I just remember as a kid just feeling like, why isn't every happy and cheerful? And then I was just mirroring it back. Like, I think, anyway, but just that reminder to even that little girl in the back that didn't look very happy, that everything is working out for you and through you. So.
Noelle, I think that is amazing advice to give to your younger self, because it also disempowers this feeling of victimization when something happens to you as well. You're able to say, that didn't feel good, but how is this actually what do I need to learn? What am I growing through this experience? So I think that's profound advice.
What advice would you give Mama Llama?
Well, you're going to laugh, but I made a list. I literally made a list because I went through each book and I didn't mention them all in this. What would I ask my younger self? What do I wish I knew then that I've learned from reading this book? But there was something in many of those books. We've talked about the Celestine prophecy. I wish my younger self knew that I am energy and that the universe is always putting coincidences in my way. So all I needed to do is just trust, like kind of what Noelle said, is that the universe is always working for me. I wish that my younger self knew about the subconscious mind, especially with the power of suggestion. How often, I was told as a child certain things suggested that I wish I wouldn't have taken on as my own because it wasn't my truth at all. Then angels in my hair. I wish I knew as a child that there was an invisible army, or even as a young adult, as a mom, I wish I knew that there was an invisible army that is literally waiting for me to employ them with an ask. Even from Loving Knight's Peace, our next evolution, I really wish I knew about Love 6 actions when I was younger, and how life is full of experiences just waiting for me to learn and grow from them. Do it scared. I wish that my younger self knew my primary fear archetype was self-doubt. If you have these awarenesses, what can you do with them? I had no idea how self-doubt was impacting so many of my decisions in my life. But the masculine and feminine relationship dynamics, I wish my younger self knew about that. I totally wish my younger self knew about how men perceive women. Many men perceive women in a relationship. And the universe has your back and heaven is beautiful, that there truly is nothing to fear. So I had a lot I wish my younger self would have known, but I don't know who said it. I think it was Noelle. I wouldn't be who I am today if I hadn't have gone through those experiences. Sure, I would like to have not had some of the pain that I experienced when I was younger, but I don't think I would be able to have written Loving Knight's Peace, Our Next Evolution without all of those. I wouldn't be where I am today. So though I would like my younger self to know all those things, with profound gratitude, I'm so grateful for everything that I've experienced in life to bring me to this point.
I'm laughing because a lot of my answers, or my answer to this question, tied a lot into what you said, which are some of these principles that we've really covered this year. Everything is energy, and there's this divine supportive energy, beings, however you connect with that, really right here, supporting you, cheering you on, wanting to hold and create the best life for you. And that was having his beautiful angels in my hair. The universe has your back. Your soul and your subconscious mind contain a lot of answers to potential struggles or traumas you've experienced. And that was evident in many masters, many lives. The power of your subconscious mind. Do it scared. And love is an intentional action, which I already mentioned with 8 rules of love, Love Ignites Peace, Our Next Evolution, and a Love Letter Life. And I highlight all of those because I believe that having the awareness, having the support, then having the awareness of what's causing some of your limitations, and then also a way of being could really create a juicy, good, amazing life right where you are. So I don't think I'd give my 8-year-old self that advice. I think I would just go straight to, hey, there are angels helping you and loving you and supporting you, and you're never alone. And you're safer if you call on them, because I really struggled with fear around safety when I was little. And that's really what I would tell my 8-year-old self. But if I were telling, maybe my 18-year-old self, I think just this idea that, as you have said, Noelle, like, you have this power and you are the ignition. Out of all of that, what I'm trying to say is you are the ignition in your life and in the world. You want to change your life, it starts with you. You want to change the world, it starts with you. What you want to create, what you want to experience, what you want to feel, what you want to see, what you want to have, it all starts with you. You are the ignition.
Well, all of that talk that we just had, all of that conversation that we just had really flows perfectly into our next question, which is, if you could give your friends and listeners a piece of advice for now from the 2023 books, what would that advice be?
I'll go first. My advice would be the exact same advice that I would give my younger self. Everything is working out for you and through you. So open your heart and allow more than you control, and it's all working out for you.
Man, I'd give that one. That was really good. I would give that advice. Mine would probably be always turn back to love. It's that all things good energy that Paige talks about. We've read about how love is an action, love has purpose. Every book we've read tied back to some strain of that, a lot of it being self-love. And I just think it's when you turn back to that, you're invincible. I feel like you can do anything, you can accomplish anything. You're that ignition that Ashlyn eloquently spoke about. And I think sitting in that, allowing yourself to sit in that and really embrace it is the best advice I think I could give.
Mine would be trust. Trust in the universe. And how do you do that? You learn to trust yourself. And how do you do that? Love. It just, everything, it starts there. It just does.
I was going to say that too, Teresa, so now I'll have to say something different.
Well, great minds think alike. I love that. I think what I'm seeing in 2023 in some friend groups and just kind of out in the wild, and obviously we've talked extensively this year about my dating life. So let's just wrap it up, let's just bring it full circle. And this is not even specifically about my dating life, but this concept that love is a choice. It's not just a feeling, it's a choice, it's an action. Whether it's in your love life, whether it's in your actions towards others, like, love is not just a feeling, it's a choice, it's an action. And I think that if we can approach so many situations with love 6 actions that my mom writes about, understanding Unifar, understanding, discerning, allowing, forgiving, accepting, and respecting, because you will go far if you follow those. we really could alleviate a lot of suffering for others, but a lot of suffering for ourselves. And so it's, as I like to call it, giving grace through the growth. And so we're all just out here doing our best, right? Like we're all just trying to figure this thing out. And so how about we approach each other with love and understanding and accepting and forgiveness and allowing, you know, all those juicy good things, respect. How much better could we make this world for others, and then in turn for ourselves as well? We have to give grace through that growth. So
that should really be on a t-shirt, Ashlyn.
Grace through the growth.
I love that.
Love 6 actions, grace through the growth, baby. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny to not get too off topic here, but Jenna and I were just talking about this, like, I don't know, a week ago, that sometimes, you know, you don't jump straight to the first thing that's going to help you get your freak on. Sometimes you have to feel it. You have to go through it. You have to have that hard, tough day. You have to be emotional. But then you get back to getting your freak on. But again, that piece that you're allowing yourself is that grace. And all these different steps and all these different processes is this grace through the growth. So there's way more than that. But I just thought I'd throw that out there.
Merch, put it on a t-shirt. I'd buy it.
I love it.
Thank you. Thank you. What were you going to say, JP?
I was going to say that's a beautiful self-love choice that we had a great conversation about, but choosing to allow yourself to feel, because there's 2 sides to the coin, right? There's this, you go through these hard things and then you just jump straight to your toolkit and you try to like get your freak on the way out of it, like too soon maybe. But then there's this other side of it where you sit in this victim mentality, which as we know and we've talked about time and time again, is also horrible. And there's this beautiful medium of like choosing like, okay, this is what I need right now. I need to feel through this, allow this to happen for me and through me, and then address your toolkit and slowly kind of rebuild.
Well, it's interesting that actually segues really lovely into what the advice I would give for now, which is that it's really important that we all gain the awareness that life is a set of experiences. And that seems obvious. We know that. But from each of those experiences, we have an opportunity to really deeply learn about ourselves and learn about our strengths, our weaknesses, but also learn about the challenges that we are here to grow beyond. I hesitate to use the word overcome, but really grow beyond. And without self-awareness, we can't do that. So as self-aware as you can become about what you are experiencing and what you are feeling through those experiences really gives you a ton of self-information about what you're here to learn and what you're here to grow beyond. Because once you grow beyond it, you're not going to have that same experience anymore. It's a way for you to break your patterns, because we all have these patterns that seem to repeat in our life over and over and over. And I don't know about you guys, but there are some patterns I am so done repeating. So yeah, so that
I'm
awareness, yeah, I'm done. So that awareness that it's an experience and what am I here to learn from experience, I think is very important. Mm-hmm. And then the second piece of that would be, and I say this a lot now, is that the most important relationship that you have in your life is the one with yourself, because
absolutely,
it is that relationship that is going to determine the quality of all your other relationships.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah.
Well, I can't believe we're already here. I'm taking in this advice too. I'm like, wow, you guys. So that leads us to our next question, which is, what is your favorite quote from all of the books that we read this year? That is a tough question.
Yeah. It was a tough question.
Well, mine, there was too many, and I really, in my note, it was too much. So I went really simple and really basic. And it a little bit ties back into Jenna from the very first opening question about coincidences. And again, this was from the Celestine Prophecy. So clearly that still makes an impact with me. And it is, the universe is energy that responds to expectations. When you expect it, you're going to get the coincidence. So that for me is, I say it differently and a billion times a day, but that for me is my kind of a motto, but I word it a little differently. Expect it and learn the language of the universe. Life will be a lot easier. The messages are there. So
Pay attention.
it's mine. Yeah.
Honestly, that just blew my socks off again. I mean, we know this, right? Everything is energy. That's what we're talking about so often in Love Ignites Peace in this book club. But I love where it's like, it's kind of this more empowered approach with energy. Like, own it, sister. Expect it. Embrace it. Declare it. You know? Not just, oh, hi, energy. Would you play with me? It's like, okay, hello.
Yeah, the
Big bold.
breadcrumbs are all around us. We get breadcrumbs every day. If we pay attention and you expect those breadcrumbs, it really will lead you where you need to be.
As we go into 2024, big, bold energy is the vibe. We're going to expect, we're going to manifest, we're going to create, we're going to vibe with it.
I like it.
I love that one so much. I'm going to contrast it with a longer one. It's really tough to pick ones. I had highlighted things in every single book. I did pick one from Love Ignites Peace, The Next Evolution. I put a little sunshine next to it, and I was like, all right, this was a note for my former self to remember this one. Love encourages you to shine your light as bright as you can make it glow. You are never too much or not enough. You are just right. Love generates happiness. You have an ability to love yourself so much that it feels like you are growing sunshine in your heart and a prolific garden of goodness in your life. Love transforms the opposite of love, not love, into healthy and empowered relationships. It creates prosperity and harmony, sets boundaries with healthy people. It says you matter, that you are important as a person. Within all of your relationships, love unifies and brings people together. Love is the most powerful energy source on the planet. I think that one speaks for itself, but I drew a sunshine next to it, so I'll never forget it.
Claps for you, PG. That was beautiful.
Well, that was a good one.
Thank you. And
it just
you
makes
for reading
me feel
that, Jenna.
good reading. Well, and here's the other thing. I thought it was going to be hard. I'm like, one quote? What? But I picked this up, found it right away, and I knew that this was the quote that I wanted to read because I felt like I had a little bit of a hectic day because I wasn't feeling very well today, and so didn't accomplish things that I wanted to accomplish, didn't get outside in the sun as much as I wanted to, so that little sunshine was my sun for the day. And it just made me feel so good after reading it, which is what it's all about.
That was like taking a vitamin C pill.
You feeling better?
Yes. From that.
Well, I'm going to tag briefly off of that because I have another quote I'm going to read later. But one that I want to just shout out that ties directly to what you just said is also the one I pulled from Love Ignites Peace, our next evolution, which is love creates all things good, not just for some, but for all. And I feel like that's what, love just created that amazing, good moment for you, Jenna. But also what we're trying to do and what we're trying to express, sometimes people might feel like they can't be a part of that. And the reality is, no, love creates good for all. Any and every person can access love.
And is worthy of receiving it and worthy of giving it. Every single human being on this planet.
I tell my students every day, by fact that you are born on this planet, you are worthy of all the love there is to receive. So true. So true.
I love
shall I roll into mine? And mine kind of goes along with that. So I chose my quote from Heaven is Beautiful. And this is when Peter was in his near-death experience. But I feel like this is also something we can all capture right here in our own heaven on earth here in our lifetime. So this is on page 84, at least on my Kindle. But he says, my true name infilled me. The voice infilled me like a breath with a gift undeserved of love, hope, joy, beauty, truth, charity, kindness, compassion, love, patience, beauty, and love again. It was all one indescribable, amalgamated combination. The gift was heaven, filling up inside my soul being, inside of me, the true and real me. I was on what I think of as the threshold of heaven, the gateway, the proverbial pearly gate, and God gave me the undeserved gift of heaven within me. In this world of ours here on earth, we separate love, hope, joy, beauty, truth, charity, kindness, compassion, love, patience, beauty, love into differentiated things. We individualize them. We have truth. We have love. We have beauty. We have hope. We have joy. We have charity. Each is a separate idea or action or experience, and sometimes they overlap. Not so in heaven. In heaven, they are one. They are oneness, and they emanate from the divine who is oneness. I was infilled, overfilled, completely filled, spilling over with the oneness. This love, hope, joy, beauty, truth, charity, kindness, compassion, love, patience, beauty, love, this unity. I became the hope, love, joy, beauty, truth, charity, kindness, compassion, love, patience, beauty, love. It was and is indescribable. And yet, even with this heaven within me, I was still just me, soul Peter. I knew who I was, and I knew that I was known, fully, completely, and utterly known. Completely naked to my Maker who could see every part of me. I was naked. That's the word. Naked, exposed, seen, and I was loved beyond imagination, beyond comprehension.
Beautiful.
And I love it.
Yeah.
Because we are all of those things right here on earth. And when we recognize those things within us, that helps us take on that creator frequency, that creator that we are, and creating with love and through love the life that we desire.
This is what I mean. In all of these books, they feel like, as Jenna used the word, sunshine. There's all these little nuggets that just feel so good and so light and so true and pure and lovely.
Absolutely.
I know we only said one, but the second one was just so, I think, important for people to know, which is, and Mommy mentioned this earlier, but it's from Angels in My Hair, which is, there are millions of angels out there. They are impossible to count like snowflakes, but many are unemployed. They're doing their best to help, but they can't always get through to people. Imagine millions of unemployed angels hovering about. They have nothing to do because most people are working hard at getting through their lives and are not aware that these angels are here to help them and that they are everywhere. God wants us to be happy and enjoy our lives, so he sends angels to help us. We have so much spiritual help waiting for us. And while some of us do reach for help, many of us don't. Angels walk beside us telling us they are there, but we are not listening. We don't want to listen. We believe that we can do everything ourselves. We have forgotten that we have a soul, and we believe that we are simply flesh and blood. We believe that there is nothing more, no afterlife, no God, no angels. It is no wonder that we have become materialistic and self-obsessed. Human beings are much more than flesh and blood. And as you become aware of this and start to believe that you have a soul, your connection with the angels will blossom. As you sit there reading this, whether you believe it or not, there's an angel by your side. It is your guardian angel, and it never leaves you. Each one of us have been given a gift, a shield made from the energy of light. It is a part of the guardian angel's task to put this shield around us. To God and the angels, we are all equal. We all deserve to be protected, to be cared for, and to be loved, regardless of what others might think of us, good or bad. When I look at someone, I can physically see the shield around them as if it's alive. Your guardian angel is the gatekeeper of your body and your soul. He was assigned to you before you were even conceived. As you grew in your mother's womb, he was there with you at every moment, protecting you. Once you were born and as you grow, your guardian angel never leaves your side for an instant. He is with you when you sleep, when you're in the bathroom, all the time. You are never alone. Then, when you die, your guardian angel is there beside you, helping you pass over. Your guardian angel also allows other angels into your life to help you with different things. They come and go. I call these angels teachers. You may find this all hard to believe. If you don't believe, you should question your skepticism. If you are cynical, question your cynicism. What do you have to lose by opening up to the possibility of angels, by opening up your spiritual self and learning about your soul? Ask the angels to start help you now. Angels are wonderful teachers. It's a little long, but I really feel like the point is so important. Call on your angels. Ask and ask out loud and ask often. Ask with abandon. All right, hit it, Mama. Let's hear your quote.
Okay, I'm the last one. Mine is from 8 Rules of Love. and it was on page 247 and 248. We want love in our lives, and we naturally assume it should take the form of romantic love. But it's a misconception that the only love in your life is between you and your partner, your family, and your friends. It's a misconception that life is meant to be a love story between you and one other person. That love is just a stepping stone. Having a partner isn't the end goal. It's a practice for something bigger, something life-changing, a form of love that is even more expansive and rewarding than romantic love. Our partnerships give us a chance to practice it, but we don't have to fulfill our romantic desires to get there. It's available to all of us every day, and it's infinite.
I love that.
This is obviously Love Ignites Peace book club, and it is fascinating that most of us had quotes about love.
Well, isn't that what the world needs now?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, let's hear it. Top 5 books that we read for 2023. Teresa, start us off.
Oh my good, really? I have to go first. Definitely 8 Rules by Jay Shetty. I thought that was wonderful, and I already kind of told you why. I really liked Heaven is Beautiful. For me, it not even that it was this metaphysical in another phase, but it was just such a great book to read. Just a really good book, a good everything. So those 2. Yours, Paige, I was privileged to read it a long time ago and then read it again in book club. It's just a good handbook for me. I think I would recommend it as just a great tool to have in your toolbox. Many Lives, Many Masters is one of my top 3 books of all time that I recommend. Have I gone over my 5 yet? And the Celestine Prophecy. Those are mine.
And what I think so fascinating in all of this is that if you listen to each of these book club podcasts, we might not give the book like this 5-star rating. In fact, I think there was only 1 book, maybe 2 we gave 5 stars. The rest have been, we have a wide range of opinions on them. But I just can't say it enough. Every single book that we've read has left an imprint in some way, a very positive, growth fulfilling kind of imprint. No matter if that book made our top 5 or didn't make our top 5.
My answer to the question segues really nicely off of that, because before I really only picked 3 because they were my 3 5-star books, which were 8 Rules of Love by Jay Shetty, Universe Has Your Back, and your book, Paige. And from a book standpoint, to me, the rest of them were kind of average, but the 2 that stand out as actually leaving an imprint besides those 3, the 2 that didn't recognize at the time, because I don't even think I gave either of these books a great rating, but the Celestine Prophecy was a big one. And I think the biggest thing was just those coincidences, watching for them, looking for them. We've talked about that a lot, but something really impacts you when you read a book and you remember where it came from. We've taken in so much information just going over these books, but I've been reading more in my personal life. We take in a lot of information every day, so I didn't necessarily know that would come with me. But the other one is Angels in Your Hair. Also, don't think I gave that book a great rating. And I listened. This is the one that I outed myself on the podcast and was so far behind that I listened to it at like a 6x speed on Audible. But from the moment we read that book, that was such a reminder to re-engage, kind of what Ashlyn was just speaking about. And so I don't want to be repetitive on that. But what that really ignited for me was to start actually writing in a journal almost every day, which has been something that I've wanted to do for a long time, but I've had this prayer journal that I had written in and out of for years and years and years. And from the moment, right shortly after we read that book, I was writing in it every single day. I had more than half the book to go, filled up the entire thing in a span of 3 months when I had this book for probably 18 years, started a new journal. And I've fallen off the habit a little bit, but I'm trying to get back to going to do it every single day, because I seriously felt the best I have ever, tapping into this this writing and kind of this prayer journal of speaking to the angels and connecting to the higher power, and the blessings that have come into my life from taking that action, which really, again, was ignited and accelerated by this book, have been really transformative over this last year for me.
That's so
Beautiful,
so
Jenna.
amazing.
I was going to say that was beautiful. Thank you. And I was only in the book club for 6 books. But obviously, I'm taking notes here. I have the 8 Rules of Love, so I need to read that, and Angels in My Hair for sure. I definitely want to say that Love Ignites Peace was my favorite, and maybe because, I mean, there might be just because that close tie, but I also think, and I think I said this in the podcast, it's something, no matter where you are on your journey, there's something in it for everyone. And I feel like it's so accessible. And that's important when you are trying to understand life at a deeper level. So I love that. And I see so much potential. You know, I look through the lens of children and I see so much potential in that for kids. I also loved Heaven is Beautiful. And maybe that's just where my heart is right now in understanding life. I'm really curious about, I love this life, but how that leads into the next life. And then I would say number 3 was The Universe Has Your Back. Another good go-to for people on the journey. If I had to put them in order, it would be We and then Do It Scared. And those would be my 5. So, but it was really just those top 1, 2, 3 that really did it for me. Thank you for having me on this journey. I've loved every minute of it.
I wanted to say that it's really, really, really special that you tell your students these things. Like, I'm just kind of thinking back to when I was that age. And if I heard that from some of my educators, what a big impact that would make. Because I mean, I feel like my parents were very much like that and our home was very supportive in that way. But to hear that, like, from a third party, that's someone that you see every single day, like, you really are leaving such an imprint and shaping these kids. And if it's something you're repeating every day, they will remember it for the rest of their lives, which is really, really special that you do that.
I'd say thank you.
Yeah, wouldn't we all love to have Noelle as a teacher? I'd like to be in her class now, and I'm certainly older than 10.
I love it. I love something that you shouted out there, Noelle, was the book The Universe Has Your Back. And of course, my top pick was my sweet Paigey Poo's Love Ignites Peace, Our Next Evolution. I'm a little biased, though. You know, she's my mom. So, but I just really do think, again, it's putting that grace of the growth into your life and into motion. But we've talked a lot about that. And what I feel like we've all really enjoyed but haven't given a lot of airtime to is The Universe Has Your Back by Gabby Bernstein. Because I fracking loved that book. Like, I literally still, I have a journal of, prepping for this podcast. I was going through my journal of pages and pages of pages of nuggets that I wrote that I'm like, this is so juicy. This is so good. This is so high vibe. And I think I've told the podcast before that one of the ways I like to use The Universe Has Your Back, which I also do think Love Ignites Peace, Your Next Evolution could be used in this way as well, is I wake up and have loved the practice of just kind of opening the book and having it show me something, or if I've done it that way, or I've just gone like 1 or 2 pages a day through the book, because there's just so many little nuggets that are empowering and are high vibe and a reminder of basically everything we've talked about here today. I mean, I would say The Universe Has Your Back is probably a summary of every single book we've read this year in some ways. So I love that one. That is my other one. Obviously, 8 Rules of Love left a lasting impact on all of us by Jay Shetty. Again, another way to put love in action and really like break it down in an applicable sense. And I'm so like proud of us and proud of us as a society that we're moving away from this idea that love is just this feeling, it's like, yeah, it's a feeling, feel the love, like, but also how can you nurture it? Let's perhaps create a different divorce rate type situation. I mean, there's a reason we have the divorce rate that we have, and there are a lot of valid reasons, but we're learning, we're growing, and, hopefully we can create less hurt for ourselves and for others through our evolution around romantic relationships. And then obviously, y'all know I love Angels in My Hair. Also, of course, as we've discussed ad nauseum, call on your angels. They are here to help. And then I really like To Love Letter Life, and I think it's really applicable to a lot of people's journey of my age right now with that pursuing creatively and intentionally, and take that into all areas of your dating, your marriage, and so on and so forth, and make the choice in love to continue to show up. Mom, you want to bring us home?
Yes, I'm gonna bring us home, and I do want to say I am like extraordinarily touched by your kind feedback tonight about Loving Knight's Peace, Our Next Evolution. I didn't expect that, and I'm just a little overwhelmed. So thank you for that.
No.
I really appreciate that. Just an update. I've never published a book before, so that we got the book out and we had to get it out for trademarking purposes in a short period of time. It has not yet been officially published, and I've changed some strategy a little bit. The goal now is to have it out in March, available mid-March, but when it comes out, it will be out in ebook, audiobook, and print book. And then at the same time, the companion journal that goes with the book will also be released in physical form and digital version as well. So anyway, thank you every single person on this podcast, and thank you all the listeners and those that have purchased the book as it is in its form today. From the bottom of my heart, I am truly, truly so grateful. So my top 5 books from the year, Angels in My Hair actually was my number 1. The Power of Your Subconscious Mind, 8 Rules of Love, The Universe Has Your Back, and We. So I think I'm well, Noelle mentioned we, but I don't know. There was just something kind of profound in that messaging for me. I'd like to say that it has been a true pleasure connecting with you women.
Also, one thing I do want to put out there, because we don't mention this enough and we are going to get so much better at saying this, if you want to join the book club to get notifications and a little bit more about the book, and there's a little nugget here, the next book that's coming, and a high level of the questions we discussed, join the book club email list, which again, you will get an email when the book club goes live, as well as a prep for the next month's book at loveignitespeace.com under book club. So if you really want the exact URL, it's loveignitespeace.com/book-club. But again, once you get on there from the home menu, you can navigate to book club in the top right-hand corner. And we would love to see that book club continue to grow. And again, the sky is the limit. Who knows? Maybe we keep growing our numbers and we have some in-person meetups and discussions and hangouts and get to create even more community around the Love Ignites Peace Book Club as we all transform our limitations to love and get our freak on together.
We'll see you next month on book club.
And as always, get your freak on.
Get your freak on.